If you are a beginner to real estate in Nigeria, then these are 7 very important steps that you want to make sure that you follow when you want to buy real estate. It's going to save you a lot of headaches. It's going to protect you and your hard-earned money. All right, now the first is you've got to be clear. Why do you want to buy or you want to invest in real estate? All right, now this is important because it is what determines what you exactly need and helps you plan your investments. For instance, a family that wants to buy a house where they would live, what they will be looking for will be different from someone who wants to buy a house that he or she would put up for short let and for rental purposes. Also, for someone who wants to make money from just buying land and flipping them, in that instance, that person will be buying plots of land in areas that are just emerging and then selling them for a while. And that will also be different from someone who, for instance, wants to develop a shopping mall on a busy road and get rental income for it. So you can see that there are so many scenarios when it comes to real estate, and sitting down to really know what you want to buy or invest in and why you want to do it is very important, so that it can help you to plan your purchase and identify what you need. Now, one thing that you also need to know, which is my second point and very important, is that real estate is fixed, and that's why it's easy for people to get scammed. Now look at this. If I buy a car today, I'm going to be given the keys of the car and I'm going to drive it out of the showroom, but it's not the case with real estate. So I can have a plot of land, for instance, and one person shows it to a proposed buyer today. Tomorrow he brings another person again, and he can say the land is still free. And maybe tomorrow that someone buys the land, and then next tomorrow he can still go ahead. If the person doesn't take the necessary steps, which I'll still talk about later in this video, you can still go ahead and sell that same land to more than one person. And that's why we have these scams that are rife up and down, that are so common nowadays. It's because of the type of assets that real estate is. And that's why it's not a type of asset that you just jump into and just start investing it. All right, you've got to shine your eyes very well. And for non-Nigerians, shine your eyes in our parlance means that you've got to be extra careful. You want to make sure that you follow the due process. And that brings me to the third important thing that you have to know. And that is, don't invest if you don't know about real estate. Now, just like I just told you, real estate is not something that you just go ahead and invest in without knowing so much about it. I always tell people, I always tell my clients that the first point of call if you want to buy real estate is to gather information, is to gather the necessary knowledge. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and I've got a lot of videos on this channel that will help you get the necessary knowledge that you need. There's a lot you need to know about real estate. You need to know what to do when you want to buy real estate. What are the different types of documentations? There are different terms in real estate that you would come across. All right, you need to know what to do. You also need to know that real estate is not a do-it-yourself project. You need professionals. There are myriad of professionals you need. You need realtors, you need agents, you need brokers, you need financial advisors, you need a lawyer, you need a surveyor. If you're building, you need different types of engineers. So you see, it is not a do-it-yourself project. You want to make sure that you know at each stage who to call, who to seek professional advice from. That's very, very crucial. Now, after you have done all this, when you want to buy real estate, there's a step that you should not skip, and that is going ahead to inspect what you want to buy and asking the necessary questions. Yes, there's an adage in my language that says that the person who asks the necessary questions doesn't miss the road. If you're going to a place, for instance, and you haven't been there before, you have the privilege of Google Maps, which my son used to call when he was younger Google Bumps. Very funny. All right, but it's going to show you like where exactly you are going. when you are, all you need to do is just to impute the right the place where you are going to. It's the same thing with real estate. You need to know the questions to ask. All right, you want to buy a land, you want to buy a house, and they tell you, oh, so and so person is the owner. You want to really be sure what's the proof of the ownership, what's the exact location. Sometimes you have documents that don't tally with the property you want to buy, and that's why you want to be sure that you go and look at what you want to buy, and you ask the necessary questions. Is very important. Now, the fifth point, and also important, is doing due diligence on title, location, and legal checks. And due diligence is you making sure that you want to take this decision, you want to buy this property, and I want to be sure that my money is being put to good use. Basically, that's what due diligence is all about. You want to make sure that you're putting everything into careful consideration. And doing due diligence on title means due diligence on the ownership of the property. And that is usually done by a lawyer. A lawyer is the one who can interpret and look at the documents, if there are documents, and say, okay, it's safe to go ahead to buy this. When it comes to the location, then you need to a surveyor to be able to help you confirm that the location of the property you want to buy actually tallies with the documents on ground. All right, so all the necessary checks, you have to make sure that you carry them out. You really don't want to buy a property and then later discover that there were so many issues that you didn't know about. All right, so real estate is not something that you buy like you buy a household equipment or an office furniture. No, it's different. So this due diligence is something you don't skip on. It's what you need to talk to the necessary professionals to carry out for you. And it is when the due diligence has been done and the checks come out fine that you can then go ahead to buy the property and ensure that there's proper documentation. You cannot buy a property orally. It's not going to work. The law is very clear that if you're buying a property, it's going to be a transfer of ownership of property. It has to be by a deed. A deed is a type of document that is drafted by a lawyer. I'll leave a link in the description box to a video that talks about 5 different types of documents, because deeds are also of different types. But whichever one that is appropriate, once you contact an experienced property lawyer, they would be able to guide you through the process of payment and the process of documentation. And the last but not the least is after you make payment, after you've been given after documentation has been signed by all the parties, especially the seller, you want to take possession of the property. It's very important. You are buying a house, you want to be given the keys so that you have access to the house physically. If it is land, you want to you go to the land. If you can build a small gatehouse on it, you can do a fence around it. If it is maybe large plots of land, maybe in some area, maybe in some outside the city, you want to engage the local stakeholders, the indigenes. If it is quite a large expanse of land, that fencing it will be quite a huge expense. Then you want to engage you want to get people who will be monitoring the land for you. That is if you're not building immediately. All right, but whichever way, there's got to be something physically on that land showing that there's a new sheriff in town. You understand that someone the property has recently been purchased. That's what I mean. So taking possession is very key. I usually advise possession and documentation are very important. None is more important than the other. The two of them are very important. You can have a proper documentation. If you don't have possession, you have to go to court to recover possession. If you have possession but you don't have documentation, you actually don't own land, because I mean, the people who sold to you could easily say that they didn't sell to you. And what would be the proof if you have to go to court? What would protect you? What will protect your interest? All right. So it's very important that you do these two things. I hope this has been very helpful. Make sure to watch other videos on my channel, which would help you invest in scam-free and safe real estate in Nigeria. And if you would like to work with our team, I'll leave a link in the description box below. Thank you.